Hello, welcome to episode 2 of the Pod of Champions. Back again with Greg.
Hello, how are we doing?
I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
So, first off, I think we should raise the elephant in the room, the audio quality on episode 1.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's just gone up and put it in the description on YouTube, but the audio, unfortunately, we definitely rushed it a bit, and we unfortunately didn't have microphones to pick it up, and it was just the laptop mic, so that's why there's the crackling and our voices aren't as clear, but from now on, hopefully, it'll be the quality that you are hearing right now.
Yeah, we did consider re-recording it, but we just thought it was 45 minutes worth of content, wasn't it? And even though you might not be able to hear it the best, it's still our opinions and...
Yes.
Things,
So hopefully you can hear at least some of it, so it helps the listener. So for today's episode, we are mainly going to focus on two topics that me and Greg both are pretty interested in. First off, we're going to give a little roundup of the fixtures that have happened so far in this odd week, game week.
A lot of fixtures from the weekend just gone.
Yes. I mean, there's been a big three because Man City postponed their game, even though we live in Manchester and during the time of the game there was sunshine, so a bit confused, but
Yeah, just a little bit.
so we'll take you through the three games that have been played so far. So we had Everton versus Crystal Palace, Brighton hosted Watford, and Bournemouth visited Sheffield United. First off, let's go to the Sheffield United game. Obviously, Sheffield United just come up and doing surprisingly well, and as we can see here, they won 2-1. Although they did go 1-0 down. Did you see the game? Did you see anything?
I didn't watch the game as such, no. I think the only game I actually watched from the weekend was Everton against Palace, because one of my housemates is an Everton fan, so we watched quite a bit of that. But no, Sheffield United again. I mean, we said it in the last podcast, surprised everyone.
Yes.
Just seem to keep getting results wherever they go. Still in sixth, or have they gone to fifth
They're
now?
fifth.
Oh,
They're 2 points behind Chelsea, and Chelsea are hosting Man United on Monday.
So that'll be interesting.
Yes, and as Sky Sports have said, Sheffield United have some favourable fixtures coming up that could see them. I personally genuinely think that they will get fourth.
Really?
I think because Chelsea have Man United, and I believe Chelsea have some challenging fixtures still, the supposedly top six still to go, and Sheffield United, from a glance when I looked, don't seem to have that many challenging fixtures or away fixtures coming to the end of the season. So I feel like that could be a factor, their home performance, and I think they will get fourth. And even if they don't, coming fifth after just coming up from the championship,
amazing season, isn't it?
Yeah,
it really is. Yeah. So I didn't actually see any of the game, but Lundstrom did get the second goal, didn't he?
He did.
So
yes.
that's my fantasy points are coming in. So that's quite nice. Brighton Watford again. Did you watch any of that game?
No, but we, as a family, we have season tickets for it, and
really?
So I did ask for some analysis.
Okay.
And I was told that we have 2 season tickets. I was told that one viewer almost fell asleep. So yes, so I think that sums up the.
So it's quite a lot.
Yes,
the game.
and
right, okay.
But our later on topic is going to be the relegation battle, and both teams down there, and I mean it was a 1-1 draw. What more could you say? I mean, there's nothing really to say, and I mean, says it all that fans are going to fall asleep during the game.
Coming on to that relegation battle later, I have a I think quite interesting fact I found out about Brighton.
Yes.
I did some research before, so I'll give you that later. But I was very surprised actually from when I saw it. It's to do with one of their stats in the league currently, so we'll get onto that. It might be a reflection of their playing style.
We will also be. So I was asked by someone to speak about. We'll go into it. We talk about the relegation battle and Brighton.
Yep.
Talk about Graham Potter and although he's just signed this new long-year contract, his performance since signing the contract, and just looking into that a bit because fans are on the edge about him.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll go into that, but we'll do that later. First off, we've got one final game: Everton 3, Crystal Palace 1. I mean, you said that you saw it with your housemate. I didn't see it. I just saw the goals.
Okay.
So if you want to,
it was quite what's the word to describe it? I'd say it was quite an even first half. Wasn't the best quality. Then I mean, the Palace goal was just comical almost. We'll obviously have a chat probably about the England squad for the upcoming Euros like later down the line. But Pickford, again, making quite a bit of a blunder. Benteke gets his first goal in over 350 days in the league. So yeah, at that point, wasn't looking the best for Everton. But no, obviously they brought it back, got the 3 points in the end. Was it Richarlison who scored the last goal? I think it was.
I believe so.
Yeah, it was.
And,
he got the third, wasn't it? He went on that like mazy run at the end. Was that right?
He scored a major run. I don't know whether it was, but Calvert-Lewin definitely scored the third. Calvert-Lewin scored the third goal. I know.
That's what it was. Yeah. So yeah, Richarlison got the second, and it was a really good goal. But no, I've been really impressed with Everton, which is. I mean, as a Liverpool fan.
I saw that ever since Ancelotti has come in, they are second in points taken since Ancelotti's arrival, which is quite phenomenal since they were 2 points above relegation and everyone was laughing.
Yeah, not completely true. And you could even maybe start to put a case together. Could they in fact sneak, maybe get in Europa League top 6? It's
top 6 is looking there.
Again, there's a lot of teams in that mix from, well, you'd say top 4 status-wise. Obviously, Liverpool's cemented there. I'd say City and Leicester are also pretty good in there. Then also you've got what you would consider the big 6 trying to fight for that 4th Champions League spot. But you've got other teams in the mix, like we said, Sheffield United. But yeah, I think Everton, if they carry on how they are, Ancelotti's a great manager. They could be outsiders for top 6 and get in European football. It honestly wouldn't surprise me. But that's just the way the league's gone this year. Yeah.
And I do think that in a few years to come, if Ancelotti has the backing and the money, he will be able to grow the Everton squad. And I think they will be definitely more up there for Europe as the years go on.
Yeah, no, 100%. So that's our almost roundup of the weekend fixtures, would you say?
Before we go on to our topics, I feel like as you head up the remaining fixtures, I feel like let's just go through the rest of the fixtures for this odd game week. So today, the recording, 14th of February, we have Wolves hosting Leicester, third against a team pushing for European football. Any predictions?
Honestly, it's a tough one to predict because both teams, I really enjoy watching as like a neutral fan. It's that type of team where even if they're on TV playing, let's say maybe, no offence, but maybe in Norwich or something, I'd still probably watch because they just both play quite exciting football. Wolves, obviously last season, they were absolutely phenomenal coming up and doing what they did. And I mean, they've kind of maintained that level, haven't they? This season, Leicester have been really impressive. Brendan Rodgers coming, absolutely flying, probably going to get top 4 Champions League football. But yeah, they're just both really exciting teams to watch. Obviously, Vardy up front for Leicester, very explosive player, goal scorer. And then on the other side, you got with Wolves, Adama Traore.
Yeah,
again, very fast player, explosive. I think there was a clip of when who were they playing against? I think they were playing against us, and there was one point where there was about 6 people in the centre of the park trying to get the ball off him, and he just bounced off all of them and just retained the ball, and then got the pass away. And you just think it's ridiculous. I don't think I've ever seen someone have that much strength.
Yeah, he's definitely
and ball control.
I definitely didn't expect it. So, what are your score predictions? I feel like each week, if we write down our score predictions for the week, and then whoever, let's say whoever has the most right or the closest, let's say there's a prize. All right.
All right.
Yeah, you didn't expect this, but there's going to be a prize.
Are you buying me a pint?
Let's say loser buys the winner a pint.
Deal.
Yeah?
I'll take that. Okay.
So we're going to write down our guesses for the fixtures.
Yep.
And whoever gets the closest, like overall.
Yep.
If you get it bang on, then obviously, well done.
Thank you.
So overall closest will then get the pint bought for them. Okay. So Wolves, Leicester. I'm gonna say, my dad supports Wolves, but I think it's gonna be a 1-1 draw.
Okay.
I think it's gonna be a 1-1 draw.
I'm also going to go for a draw. However, I feel like there'd be more goals in it, so I'm going to go for a 2-2.
Very nice, very
A
nice.
cheeky Desmond 2-2.
So then moving on to the Saturday games, we've got Southampton, Burnley, and Norwich, Liverpool. First off, we'll talk about Southampton, Burnley first. As I mean, yourself being a Liverpool fan, we will go on to the Liverpool game, but it's probably already in the bag before the ball's already been kicked. Let's be honest with this.
You never
season.
know, never know.
So Southampton, Burnley, both of the teams doing quite well in terms of like getting the results, putting the performances in. Danny Ings for Southampton has been incredible, and in my opinion, I feel he should have an England call-up.
I would agree. I think if you're looking at the current England squad, striker-wise, Kane's a doubt at the minute, isn't he?
Yeah.
Whether or not he's going to be back in time. Obviously, Rashford's going to be out for, I think it's another 2 months or so. So him, like, fitness-wise as well, being fully prepared. But no, I think Ings has been absolutely phenomenal for Southampton. Really impressed. I always felt it was just hard for him at Liverpool, because every time he played for us, I always felt that he gave it his all and did deserve a bit more of a chance. It was just, obviously, got hampered by injuries a little bit, and then obviously other players with arguably a bit more quality than him, for our system especially. But no, I'm really happy for him that he's gone to another club and he's just banging the goals. And is he his second highest goal scorer?
Danny Ings.
Is that right? Or where is he?
Well, I know Jamie Vardy has 17 and Aguero has 16.
Oh, so he's up
But
there anyway.
he's I believe he's top five goal scorers in the league. And I mean, Vardy hasn't scored since Christmas, and Aguero, although Aguero's there, he hasn't exactly been like scoring as he has been for City in recent years. And then there's that whole entire penalty situation with City, which we won't go into because we will be here for a good hour of me just ranting. So, score prediction. We'll go with the other one first.
Okay, I'm going to go for... This is a tough one, because I always find Burnley quite a resilient team. So, you always think of them not conceding many, but again, Danny Ings scored quite a few. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Southampton.
Very nice. I'm actually going to... Same score, but flipped. I think Burnley will... Yeah.
Oh, really?
I think Danny Ings will score.
Okay.
But I think the Nick Pope, Tarkowski and Ben Mee, those three, I think, have been they put the performance in when it's needed, and I feel this type of game is a big game.
Fair enough.
So yes, as we said just a moment ago, Norwich Liverpool. I mean, I feel like after the first episode we spoke a lot about Liverpool and their performance, so we won't go into it. I feel if it's all right with you, we'll skip.
Yeah.
We'll obviously say our results, but we'll just jump straight into the Sunday fixtures. So Norwich Liverpool. I'm going 3-0 Liverpool.
All I quickly want to say, and I will skim over it, is that the reverse fixture of this, so Liverpool-Norwich, was actually our first game of the season. And when I watched it, I was actually in Zante at the time. Won't go into details about that. But no, I'm quite almost shocked, because I thought Norwich had a really good start to the season. And when they played us in that first fixture...
I mean, Pookie did get Player of the Month.
Well, there you go, yeah.
First
and
month.
I remember in that first fixture for the first 20 minutes or so, I was like... I wouldn't say worried, but they were playing very good football and they were creating chances. So I was slightly worried back then. Obviously, it's flipped a bit now. They're out of form. I'm going to go with 4-0 Liverpool.
Very nice, very nice. So, looking here, we've got Aston Villa Spurs and Arsenal Newcastle for the Super Sunday fixtures. Aston Villa. I spoke a little bit about Spurs in the previous episode, and I've during the week prior to the recording of this, spoken to a few people about Aston Villa and Jack Grealish and his performances. I think, as we said on the first episode, Mourinho's still getting the team together, but it's getting more there.
Yeah.
As they went 2-1 down to Southampton, but they still got the result, and it's looking more like a Mourinho team. So,
yeah,
I feel this will be a 3-1 Spurs.
3-1 Spurs.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Yeah, I can see Villa scoring. I still think Spurs do have a bit of work to do at the back. Like you said, they've conceded 2 goals in the last game. I'm going to go 2-1 Spurs.
Very nice. Right. Arsenal, Newcastle. Arsenal under Arteta.
Draw central.
Yes. They have 13 draws. Although they've lost the same amount as second and third place, they have their stats at the moment are 1-6, lost 6, drawn 13.
Yeah.
That's not exactly the greatest for a club that wants to be challenging for European football.
Not really Arsenal standards, is it?
No. And although, okay, Arteta is doing the best with what he's got, and they've had a few players out, but Aubameyang is coming back into the picture,
Yep.
and that will obviously help boost their attacking force, because although they've still got the likes of Martinelli, who's been phenomenal, personally, I think, Lacazette and Pepe, and then obviously Ozil behind. But I feel Arteta still needs that time, and obviously they need to get the results, not score the goal, become lackluster, and then just like peter out and concede late on. I do think they'll still get the job done, but I'm only going to go for a 1-0.
1-0, right, okay. Yeah, I completely agree. I think Arteta does need quite a bit more time. I was reading this morning, quite interesting. It could be an interesting summer signing-wise for Arsenal. Obviously, there's a lot of fans that are a bit unhappy with how Lacazette's doing at the minute. Don't think he's as good as he used to be for them. And then the Aubameyang situation as well. He's currently got under 18 months left on his contract, going into the final year, obviously, in summer. So fans are starting to decide, should they get rid of them both, concentrate on Martinelli, Pepe, and get another striker up front, or just things along them lines, really. But yeah, for this game as well, I think they'll be in control. They're at home. I'm going to go 2-0 Arsenal.
Very nice. And now probably, well, yeah, I mean, Wolves-Leicester is a big game, but probably the big game of this game week is Chelsea-Man United.
Yeah.
Chelsea have, as most people will know, have just signed Ziyech.
Yep.
And like Ziyech for Ajax last season, Champions League, was great, but I don't know your opinions on it, but I found it a bit odd that we're 14th day of February, but the transfer window is only just finished. If Ziyech could be signed on February the 14th, why couldn't he have been signed on like January 30th?
I was reading about this morning, and I'm pretty sure it's to do with Ajax themselves. So they basically said they would make an agreement with Chelsea, and I think the agreement was actually done in December. However, they said they didn't want to announce it or have any other clubs interfering, because Ajax didn't want it basically having a hindrance if they lost him on their Europa League campaign or their league campaign, which obviously they're fighting for on both fronts. So yeah, I do think personally it's a very good signing from Chelsea, especially for the money they've got him for. I think it's 35 million.
33.
33. And it can rise up a few million more. But yeah, I think the signing's absolutely fantastic. Obviously, it's the first signing that Lampard's made as well, so starting to put a bit of a imprint into the team.
I believe. Sorry to cut you off. I believe that it's 33 million. And then there's obviously the sign-ons and everything else.
Yeah.
So it comes around to 36, 37. But the initial, which I found... Obviously, Jose Perez for Leicester's done well, but I found it quite amusing that a Champions League semi-finalist who had quite a few assists and goals and played very well cost less than Jose Perez.
Yeah.
But we'll go on to that at a later date.
I completely agree. I guess the last thing I'd say on it is, I guess it's almost a case of a player coming over from a different league, especially the Eredivisie. And obviously it's been quite hit and miss, hasn't it?
Yes.
With players coming over from there, obviously players like Suarez have done very well, but you've had players like Depay, United, who haven't done particularly well. And obviously he's moving quite late in his career. I think he's 27 now. So it's just a case really of how will he do. But no, I'm looking forward to seeing him in the league.
Yeah.
But obviously that won't come until summer.
So we'll quickly, I just want to mention, and then we'll go to our predictions. Obviously, Man United signed Igalo, very interesting signing, and then they put him, obviously, this coronavirus going around, and
Yes.
they put him in isolation. But then I've been reading about apparently it's part of their big plan.
Yeah, so he wasn't allowed into training,
Yes,
apparently.
but he's in the squad.
In the matchday squad,
Yes.
which I find quite bizarre.
Yeah.
Um,
But we won't go too much into that. So predictions, I'm going to say it's a tough one because it does depend, like, obviously, what performance the players give, and obviously it's Solskjaer, Lampard, two new in their first few years at these clubs, and they're big clubs for them. But I think, because Chelsea obviously they're strong squad, but they're still youthful. I think potentially United's experience might get them over the edge. I'm going to say a 2-1 Man United.
really?
Although that obviously a City fan might should probably say Man United should lose. As me for the podcast, I think Man United 2-1.
Right, okay. I'm actually going to go for a Chelsea win. I think Chelsea are going to win 2-0. They're at home. I just think they'll have the edge over them this weekend. There's something about Man United this season, and they've just been quite inconsistent for me. Chelsea, again, you can say hit and miss, but I'd put that down more to the fact that it's a youthful side, so anything can really happen. I'm not saying that United side isn't youthful, it's just, I don't know, I've just got a feeling about Chelsea this weekend, so yeah, that's what I'm going for.
And then, quickly, we'll go to the final game, the postponed game, Man City, West Ham. We won't go too much into this because, hopefully, it's self-explanatory, like some other games, like the Norwich, Liverpool. I'm going to say a 4-1 Man City.
Okay, I'm going for 4-0. I don't think West Ham will get one past you.
Very okay. Well, thank you for the vote of confidence.
You're so welcome.
So that's all the fixtures, and obviously, when we record the next one, we will come back and one of us will have won the prize.
Hopefully it's me.
So we're going to go into our first topic now, and this is one that we both want to look at, but Greg has been more looking into this a bit more, so I'll let Greg just explain about it.
Yeah, so it's something that's been in the news quite a bit recently, and you've probably seen it on social media as well. It's to do with the Premier League actually making their own broadcast service, or streaming service, if you will. I guess it's kind of come from the fact that Amazon started it off, didn't they, in December? I don't know if you watched any of the games on Amazon, did you?
Yes, I actually watched all of them.
Oh, you watched all of them?
Yes.
Okay. I personally found it very interesting as an experience to be able to stream it. I've had Amazon Prime for quite a few years now, so it was just ready and accessible for me. I really enjoyed the features that it offered, the fact you could pause a live game, rewind, you could decide whether or not you wanted the commentary team to be playing over the match, or you just wanted the actual atmosphere of the stadium. What was your take on it? Did you enjoy it?
I thought it was unique.
Okay.
I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't think it would go as well as it did.
Yeah.
Mainly because they had all the New Year's Day, they had all the games.
Yeah.
So didn't really see how that was gonna work really.
Okay.
But yeah, pleasantly surprised, and I think if they do it well, then it could go somewhere. But I feel like they have to be very precise and pick the right times as to when to start with when they do the game. Because obviously, around this time with the winter break and everything, I don't feel like it. People are still going to watch the football. Don't get me wrong. Everyone loves. Majority of people love watching football. But I feel like maybe the opening day during the Christmas period and the last day of the season to start with should be the three that they focus on, just because that's big.
Yeah.
First day of the season, you want to get your first win. Last day of the season, okay, this season obviously the title's going to be wrapped up.
Yeah, but you still got things like relegation battle.
Yeah, relegation battle. And then if we go back to when it was Man City, Man United, but they were neck and neck, and then Aguero got that last minute winner for City to win the title. I feel like obviously that was on red button for Sky, but I feel like because with all the streaming that goes on now and everything, I feel like Amazon would be able to have taken that to the next level.
No, I completely agree. So yeah, doing a bit of research into this as well. Amazon currently have a 3-year deal with the Premier League, so this season was the first year of the deal, if you will. It's £90 million to the Premier League, and that's for 20 games a season. So obviously they did 10 on Boxing Day, if I'm correct, and then 10 on New Year's Day. What I really liked about it as well is that finally it's a place where every single 3 p.m. game was on there.
Yes.
Which is something I don't think we've had before until the final day, if I'm mistaken. Which I really enjoyed because it's so frustrating when your team's playing at 3 p.m. and there's no coverage of it, or at least on legal ways of getting it within the UK. And obviously that started to come down to, I guess, back in the day, to do with attendances, wasn't it?
Yes.
And this fear of, people won't attend the games if they can watch on TV. I think that's changed now, in the sense of the league and the clubs within the league are that big, with that big a following, that even if you show games on the 3 p.m. kickoff, I don't think it's going to be of the detriment to the attendance. I don't think it will have an impact on that as such anymore. So I think moving forward it will be a thing we start to see more and more, which I will be looking forward to. So coming into what has been discussed anyway, and what people think will happen in the future with Premier League broadcasting, is that they believe that the Premier League will actually create what's called an over-the-top service. So instead of selling the rights to broadcast to Sky, BT and Amazon like we started doing, instead it would just be them having this over-the-top service, and they provide it worldwide as a package deal. And a lot of people have been comparing it to what would be almost like a Netflix model. So you pay, let's say, £10 a month subscription, which I don't know about you, but I would be very happy to pay.
Definitely.
To get all the Premier League live games. Currently, the cheapest deal, I'm pretty sure it is in the UK, to watch all 200 games that are broadcast is £76 a month, which is a lot of money. Being a student, nowhere near able to afford that.
This is the point where I would like to say my parents pay for that, so I benefit.
Mine also pay for it.
Benefit, yes. But obviously there will come a time where we won't be able to do that, and we'll be looking into that and may be missing a few more games than we have been.
Yeah. So what people are saying is that at the minute there's an estimated 200 million or so households, if you will, around the world that, alright, they're not paying the full £76 even a month to watch the football, but 200 million people around the world are paying some sort of fee to watch it.
Yeah.
And there's also an extra, let's say, 100 million or so that watch it on terrestrial TV, so they get it for free in certain regions. What people think they should do is that the Premier League should offer a service like Netflix. They're in control of it all. It's a £10 monthly subscription fee, and let's say, for example, them 200 million people around the world that are currently paying sign up to that instead. It's going to create a hell of a lot more revenue for the Premier League, and obviously in turn the clubs in the Premier League. Now, currently, every team, every season on the current Premier League TV deal is getting 135 million, which is a lot of money.
Yes.
It is like a hell of a lot of money. However, if it was to go up to this new broadcasting style of the Premier League doing it all itself, they could be making 24 billion a year off a £10 a month subscription with 200 million people, which averages out to just over £1 billion for every club. So that is a lot of money that is potentially out there. Now, it sounds like a no-brainer for the Premier League to do, but there are some complications in the sense of, I was thinking about this quite a lot in depth, and it's not really something that I've read about, but I started to think about how it would work logistically, would be transfer fees. Now, if every single club in the Premier League is getting over £1 billion every single season from a TV rights deal, what effect do you think that would have on transfer fees?
Well, I mean, we've seen from the likes of, Neymar's move, fees are already going up, and if this type of money is going into every club, fees are gonna go up more and more and more. And I feel that there needs to be a point where, as a sport, they say that's too much.
Yeah.
Because I don't. Obviously, lots of players not a lot. There's like the Mbappes, Messi, even Ronaldo. Still, even at 35, is doing bits.
Yep.
Neymar, lots of people. Mane,
Mm-hmm.
brilliant footballers. But there comes to a point where you're like, surely, a human being, at the end of the day, it's still a human being, shouldn't be worth £300 million. And I feel like this, as you said, this could be a problem because then it'll just get ridiculous. And
Well, I mean, you could see the likes of, I don't know, John Joe Shelby moving for £400 million, in the sense of one Premier League team's going to go to another, say, "Oh, I'd like to buy John Joe Shelby," and they'll go, "Well, we know you've just got £1 billion from this TV deal, because so did we. That's how much of it we want." Which, that's obviously ridiculous amounts of money. I also think it'll create an imbalance, because this is only for the Premier League,
yeah,
and because of the popularity it has. So all the Premier League teams have this much money, whereas the teams in other European leagues wouldn't.
mm-hmm.
Obviously, it starts to increase as well, but it'll never be the same level, because the interest isn't nearly as there as it is in the English league. So it'd always be a case of, would every single top player, they would just almost end up in England,
yeah,
in the Premier League, because that's where the money is. That's where they know they're going to get the biggest wages.
yeah.
The clubs that they currently play for will want to sell them, because that's when they know they'll get the biggest fees from. And even though I'm a Premier League fan, it would be quite strange in the sense of every single team's just so dominant compared to the rest of Europe. It would create a massive imbalance, I think. So that's kind of a negative take on it, I think.
I would like to get your view on. So obviously, I mean, this affects normal streaming as well. But what would you think? What kind of impact do you think this would have on viewership on Sky and on like Freeview? Because you can still get the sport, but that's on your box. That's part of like your pack. So if it was just on streaming,
Yeah.
what effect do you think this is going to have on like Sky trying to sell their packages to people? Because if you could just go out and for £10 a month get all the games,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got Netflix as well,
Yep.
on there, £20 a month, are you really going to go out there and buy Sky Movies and then Sky Sports? Because, yeah. So I was just like, your take on that.
Yeah, I think it'll be massively damaging Sky, to be honest with you. You look at a few years ago when they lost the Champions League rights to BT, and BT still have them to this day. That immediately, my household, me and my dad straight away decided, right, we want to watch Champions League football, we will get BT Sports. And Sky I know they announce every season we've got more games than ever, but as a fan of one club, it's almost like less games that I'm interested in, if that makes sense. And I think in the adverts when you're watching between football matches and things like that, they come up with, we're now the new home of rugby, cycling, what other sports are trying to get to keep this audience.
Yeah.
But football is the biggest sport, and it's the sport with the most interest. So I think if this almost Premier League thing does happen, that it will be of a huge detriment to Sky. Like you said, with Netflix as well. Yeah, Sky Movies, I'll be honest, I don't really know too much about that. But I think Sky Sports will massively struggle. I think another part of this whole Premier League Netflix-style streaming service will be that in order to implement it worldwide, they'd have to go about it very carefully, in the sense that I think Amazon did very well with getting broadcasters and presenters on that we all knew. They were all people that have worked in the past for Sky, BT, BBC, whoever, and that they just drafted in. And it was good because it's recognisable faces, opinions that you trust, good analysis of the game. And I think that would be something similar, that if the Premier League were to do this, they'd have to follow that model. And I guess that's another difficult stepping stone, because not only would you have to do that in the UK, it's also, in America, you couldn't have the same presenters. It'd have to be like kind of their own takes on things and translate it to the American fans how they do. Different languages, different cultures. It suddenly becomes this massive thing of... Because currently the Premier League, all it is is they arrange all the games throughout the season. They're just an organisation.
Yeah.
And what people are talking about them turning into is a worldwide broadcasting service, and behind that is a monumental amount of setup and ensuring everything's running smoothly, and a global connected broadcasting network where it's pinged live to every country in the world and everyone has access to it. So it's a hell of a task. But again, the money is there should they want to do it. So
what would your the TV personalities, like the people that are on Sky, like they've got Thierry Henry, they've got JB Carragher, Gary Neville, and then the types like Gabby Logan and all of that. What do you think if this was to go about and be a success? Do you think that like the streaming site that the Premier League want to release would bring them across, and then that would also take away from Sky? Because some people do like to watch because their club legend is then talking and giving analysis, and that's quite interesting.
Yeah. It's sad to say, but I think, again, the thing it will come down to at the end of the day will be how much money can a company offer. I love watching Monday Night Football because I think Carragher and Neville get on great. It's good chemistry, a bit of banter. So that's why I enjoy watching it. So if, let's say, the Premier League do the streaming service, so they could be like, look, guys, I want you to come on board, we'll double your salary, whatever. I don't know what they're like. They might be driven by money, probably not, who knows.
I feel like they've got enough already.
Well, yeah, I think every modern day footballer does, but there we are. I think they'll be able to basically get whoever they wanted to within reason because of the power that they'll have in terms of being able to offer them whatever money they want, really.
Do you think that with the site, do you think that they would either be able to do a deal with BBC and get Match of the Day, or do you think they would make their own type of Match of the Day and then again take away from BBC? Obviously BBC have lots of other stuff going on, but quite a lot of people either watch it the Saturday night or get up Sunday morning and watch it. Do you think they would do, if they copied Match of the Day, do you think they would do a Saturday night repeat Sunday morning and then do what Match of the Day 2 or like Game 2, or do you think they should just put them all together in one and then take away from?
I think the great thing about this whole idea really is that the Premier League can create within reason as much content as it wants. It can have basically all the footage from every Premier League game that ever from 1992-93 season. So that's what, about 16,000 hours worth of games or something ridiculous like that. So all that content can be on there. There's no reason why it can't. You can access all of it. And I think all that in one place would be fantastic. I think another issue, though, with potentially doing it is that it's good that you mention Match of the Day, because I think something like that is so important for people that are of maybe the older generation that maybe don't quite understand how this whole streaming service would work. Or, I mean, my granddad's old house didn't actually have internet, so he wouldn't actually be able to watch this streaming service. So I think that things like that are important to remember, and that's why I think something like Match of the Day is still very important, because it gives people access to free football content, basically. I know you pay a TV license, but it's still very accessible for most people. So if this did happen, I would like the BBC still to be able to do something like that. But I'd be more than happy for the Premier League streaming service to do as much content as they want and create their own Match of the Day, and take it from there, really.
Just branching off that, do you feel like Disney, they've now created a Disney Plus, do you think with this, let's say this was a success, there could be like which would show the games and everything, do you think they could then maybe create a Premier League Plus and have a sort of Gillette Soccer Saturday type of thing?
Right.
Maybe they had each person, like lots of presenters and everything, bring you up to date daily team news, and then put their Match of the Day type show on that. Do you think that would be something that the Premier League like the Premier League style Netflix. Personally, would you want to see that, or would you just want to not try and take away from BBC, BT, and Sky, and just focus on right? Our site is showing the games. You go to Sky and others to watch everything else, but you come here to have the games.
I personally think that they'd want, if they were going to do it, they'd do all of it. Now, I personally have no problem with Sky or BT having no football content because it's behind that high of a paywall. For me, that's no problem. Like I said, I still want BBC to have Match of the Day because that's important, I think, for, again, the older generation, and it's free to view. Obviously, you pay your TV licence, like I said. However, I think it's a case of really, if the Premier League do this streaming service, the more content that's on there and the more they can offer, the better. The more value for money I'm getting. So, I'd love a pre-show of the game. Obviously, then the game, half-time, great analysis, second half, end of the game, run through it all, weekly updates of how my team's getting on, and just as much as you can, really. I have absolutely no problem with them just going completely all out for it. Obviously, to begin with, it will be a case of, I think, if they do it, taking it slowly, easing themselves in. I was watching a TIFO podcast, actually, on this earlier. I think they said they were going to start in, I want to say Indonesia, that is maybe a good place to start. So they might try and like almost test it in one country and see how that goes, and then start to move around a bit. Because, like I said earlier, it's a massive, massive undertaking, and it's not something you can just go into and be like, right, we're going to do this overnight. There's so many aspects to it that, it'd be so difficult for even a company of, well, the Premier League size, or an organisation of the Premier League size, to just flip it on its head and be like, we're going to do this. So it will take time, but I think there's no denying that it's going to happen in one way or another, and it will go to a streaming service. Whether or not that's the Premier League doing it itself, or it sells it to a company such as Facebook, Google, Amazon, who turn around and say, look, we'll deal with all the broadcasting, but instead of you getting 3 billion that you're currently getting off Sky, we'll give you 6 billion and double it, or something like that. And maybe the Premier League just think, okay, that's fine. You've got the marketing in place, you've got the broadcasting in place. We don't want the hassle of doing all that. We'll just take double the money. They might do that. You don't know, but I think there's no denying it. It's going to move away from the whole regular Sky viewing, at least, and we're going to see a lot more online, personally.
Just one final thing before we move on to our next topic. If this was, Premier League games, do you feel, what would you think Sky would do to try and keep that? Do you think they would then try and start broadcasting the Championship more? Because, I have watched a few Championship games, but majority, you do spend a good, maybe even the whole first half, maybe trying to find a stream. But because the Championship is obviously there's viewership. It's if you win that, you first, second, and then win the playoffs, come to the Premier League and everything. But there's not that much broadcast shown. Do you think if the Premier League were to move away from Sky and BT, those two would then broadcast the Championship or other leagues more?
Yeah, I think it will be really important that if this does happen, that Sky quickly realise that they've got to get some type of football content on there. I think, like you said, the Championship is a good way to go about it, but I think Sky battling it out with BT for the Champions League rights would be huge as well. I think whichever one of them gets that, if this does happen, this broadcasting service, that would be a big thing. However, saying that, maybe by the time we get to this happening, UEFA might have their own broadcasting service. So
you never know.
You just don't really know what's going to happen in the future. But I think Sky and BT, respectively, will be looking at this and thinking down the line, it is a bit of a worry, because I don't think it is something that they can avoid. And in one way or another, it's either going to be this case of the Premier League are going to do it themselves, or they will sell the rights for a lot more money to a streaming service that have all this infrastructure in place, and that isn't Sky, and that isn't BT. Well, not at the minute, anyway.
Well, thank you for that. I looked into a bit of it, but it's nice to sit down and obviously hear your views, and you've looked very deep into it, so that was very nice. Thank you.
No problem.
As we mentioned at the beginning, our second topic is I personally think at the moment, the very interesting relegation battle that is going on. As we said when we were going through the fixtures that are coming up in this game week, we mentioned Norwich and how they were doing okay. I mean, although they lost to Liverpool, they played quite well. They beat Man City.
Yep.
And they were in the top half and doing quite well. And then, I mean, there's 13 games left for Norwich, and they've only won 4, and one of them was against Man City. So it's a bit
interesting.
Yes. So we'll just go through that, and then we'll work from 20th up to we'll stop at Brighton as we I've got some things that I've been asked to talk about.
Okay.
And you said you read some things and saw some things about Brighton, so we'll go from 20th to 15th. So as I've been saying, let's talk about Norwich. Norwich currently 20th after 25 games.
Yep.
Only won 4, as I just mentioned. One of them was against Man City.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Minus 23 goal difference was obviously, and they're on 18 points. Still doable to survive, but that minus 23 when you look above them, no one's in the minus 20s.
Yeah.
It's going to be very, very challenging for them.
I mean, the problem Norwich have got really is that they've conceded the joint amount of goals in the league with 47, and they've scored the second least amount of goals with 23. So they're not scoring, but they're conceding a lot. And I think as well, they're struggling. Pucky, obviously, at the start of the season, fantastic. Everyone was raving about the Pucky party. Fantasy league managers were having a great time with him. But obviously, the goals, I think it's fair to say, have dried up for him quite a bit. I know he scores now and again, but
He does score now and again.
I think a few of them have been penalties, haven't they?
Yes.
So, yeah, I would have to say if there's one shining light in the team that could get them through it, maybe, is I've been very impressed with Buendia this season.
Yes, I've seen quite a bit about him, and I feel that if Norwich go down, clubs will be looking at him.
I think he'll definitely be going.
Also, Cantwell's been doing quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel those two are probably the shining lights. They obviously have Aaron's the right back, who everyone was raving about, but I personally haven't seen that much of him to comment.
Yep.
But I feel so. Obviously, Norwich, although they're at home, they are playing Liverpool.
Yeah.
And that, who knows in football? Obviously, we've got to say who knows in football, but it looks like they most probably will lose it.
I mean, yeah, you look at that's the next game, and you think, well, there's very little chance they're going to beat us. Then you look at the next game after that, they've got Wolves away.
Their next 4 games are very, very challenging.
So then they've got us, then Wolves away, then Leicester at home, and then Sheffield United away. Now, I personally, I don't know about you, I can't see them getting a single point.
I can't.
Personally, you might disagree.
The first 3, don't see it. Sheffield United, although I did say they're going for it. They're going for the Champions League. They've got some very favourable fixtures for them. Sometimes Sheffield United against the lower teams don't exactly they get the results, but they don't perform as well. And they beat Bournemouth 2-1 as we mentioned earlier, but they went 1-0 down. And Lundstrom came off the bench and scored, but if they go 1-0 down, they did drop for a little bit. And if Norwich do that and maybe capitalise, they could get a point. But again, they got a point against Newcastle, but that's looking at the upcoming 4 and then the 2 previous. So they had Tottenham, they drew at Newcastle, and now they've got these 4. Doesn't look good for them.
No, I mean, like you said, even if you do scrape a point out of Sheffield,
a point's not going to do much.
It's not going to do much for them, and I can't see them staying up really, which is quite surprising because, like I said, at the start of the season, I thought they looked really up for it.
Yeah.
Played good football, but sadly for them, it's just dropped off, if you will.
Right. Next, 19th place, we've got Watford. They they were doing. Well, they were doing okay. Like, obviously they were bottom for quite a while.
Yep.
And then brought the new manager in, and they got some results. They got the results going, and then they
win against United.
Yes,
I remember that one fondly.
And they suddenly just fell off again. They lost to West Ham. I believe they went 2-0 up against Everton, didn't they?
Yeah.
And then they threw it away 3-2, and then they, as we mentioned at the beginning, they drew with Brighton. So they got 1 point out of their last 3. They then have their next game is Man United away. They then host Liverpool. They then go to Crystal Palace, and then they host Leicester. Just like Norwich.
Tough games.
Very tough games, and I generally only see the Crystal Palace game being the game that they. And we're back. So bloody hell, I'm loud. Sorry about that. We had a bit of a technical difficulty, but yeah. So we were just talking about Watford's upcoming game. So they were 2-0 up against Everton and then lost. The very dull 1-1 against Brighton, and then upcoming Man United, Liverpool, Palace, Leicester, and I felt that only they would maybe even show up against Palace. So, Greg, what are your views on Watford at the moment? I mean, obviously, new manager came in and they got off the bottom. Then I believe they got out the relegation zone for a week or two.
Yeah.
And then suddenly this happens.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you that I think the only game they would get anything out of really for at least the next 4 games would be that Palace game. But you look at where Norwich are, like we spoke about, foot of the table, 18 points. And Watford are actually joint on points with West Ham, who are also in the relegation zone with them, in 18th. So there's not actually that many points between Watford, West Ham, and then, again, you look at the teams above them that we're going to cover soon, Villa, Bournemouth, Brighton, even Crystal Palace. 2 wins for them, and 2 losses for any of their opponents or whatever. Again, they're out of the relegation zone. Yeah. It's that tight at the bottom at the minute, and obviously 13 games to go. All it takes is a 2-game swing. So, yeah.
What? Yeah. Sorry, you just stopped mid-conversation.
All right.
But yeah, no, I agree that no, nothing's going on. Calm down. Right. Watford, as you can see with the table, Watford have 24 points. West Ham have 24 points. Aston Villa, I know this isn't really that interesting, but I found it cool how Aston Villa have played 25 points. Thought that was pretty cool. And then Bournemouth have played 26 on 26. And then Brighton, if they draw that, Brighton are on 27. So it's very close there. But I fear for Watford because they currently are, obviously, so a few different players will score, but their highest goal scorer is Troy Deeney.
Yeah.
And then obviously, De La Fea's got 5 assists. De La Fea, I think he's a quality player. I don't really think he should be at Watford, but then again, I think he's a quality player, but then he's not really showing that he shouldn't be at Watford.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think something that I think is starting to maybe bite Watford maybe in the behind a bit is they've always been a club where, and yeah, it's worked for them in the past, they'll get partway through a season, things aren't going their way, they'll change the manager. And I don't know if you know, I actually don't know how many managers they've gone through since they've been in the Premier League. It's a lot, a hell of a lot compared to other clubs. So I think that might finally
They had Marco Silva.
Yep.
Then they sacked him, got someone else. Then they went back to Marco Silva.
Yep.
Then they sacked him, went back to the other guy. And then Duncan Pearson's come in. And it's just although you want, okay, you get a manager in to help the team and everything, chopping and changing isn't going to help.
No.
Either.
I think the problem is that they're almost going for that manager bounce.
Yeah.
And trying to get that immediate impact, whereas in the long term, it's not being beneficial to them at all because the team's got not really any identity or style of play because one manager's getting 6 months or so to implement their style of play and what they want the team to do, and then they're getting thrown out, and someone else is bringing their ideas in, and it must be. I do feel a bit sorry for the players because it must be quite difficult to just be constantly chopping and changing what you're being asked to do, how you're being asked to play. And I think that must put quite a bit of pressure on you to get results as well. So I see why they're in the position they are in, and even though it is tight at the bottom, I do personally think they will join Norwich in going down.
Same.
I think this will finally be that year that they do.
Yes.
They will be in a lot of financial trouble if they do.
I feel that although it was last season, I feel that the FA Cup final, it was the manner that there was a golfing class between and cost in the teams when Man City played Watford and Wembley in the FA Cup final, but it was just the manner that they conceded one, and then they conceded 2-3, and then by the time the third had gone in, Watford were like, well, what's the point?
Yeah.
And that mentality seems to have stuck with a lot of players this season, and they're like, once we've gone 1-0 down, or it's 2, like we've gone 1-0 down, we've got the equaliser, then they quickly go 2-1 down, and they're just like, right, no, like, okay, we've lost this football match, I'm kicking the ball because I have to. And that's my view.
Okay.
Next up, joint on points. Just above them is West Ham. Now, this one to me was a surprise
I'd agree.
because I like Watford, not Watford, West Ham.
He hates Watford.
And I think over the years they've obviously the move to the new stadium was massive for them, but they've never really. I mean, they're 18th. They haven't shown that they, in a sense, deserve that stadium because they don't. And then obviously the loss of Arnautovic and that the striker was massive. And then they had Javier Hernandez, but he really didn't do much. And then he left. And then they've got players. They've brought a few in, but there's no one that has. They brought Haller in, but he hasn't really done that much. And then, I mean, Haller is their top goal scorer, but he only has 6 goals.
Which
this season.
I found interesting that he was actually their top goal scorer when I was doing a bit of research for this. I think with West Ham, it's almost been a case of they've had problems with ownership. Obviously, the fans and owners don't get on at all. The owners have all this ambition of where they want to be, what they want to do, and they have moved into this stadium that I just don't think has worked in the sense of it just doesn't have the same character as the Bowling Ground did. Fans are too far away. There was a lot of problems at the start with like security and things like that. So that created issues and divides between the fans and the owners. You can't really say that they haven't put money into the team because, like you said, they've signed Haller for big money, Felipe Anderson for big money, players of that nature. However, they have invested heavily in the attack. It's in the defence where they've not really spent a lot of money at all. I mean, no offence to him, he was a fantastic professional when he was at Man City, but if you're still playing Zabaleta now in this league at right back, I think he's going to struggle a bit. I just think the ambition was there, but the spending in the right areas just hasn't been.
Yeah.
I think I read something the other week that since they've been back in the Premier League, they've gone through something like 40 different strikers, which is a ridiculous amount. And of them 40, I can't remember what percentage of it was, but a percentage of them have only scored, like I think it was like double-digit amount of goals for West Ham during the time there. So it just shows that they've had a lot of changes up front, trying to find a player who will score for them. And again, I know Haller's their top goal scorer on 6, but I just can't really see him being
like 6 in 20. How many get
25?
25.
Yeah.
25 games is when you when you want to be the team that are finishing like top half.
Well, Europa League was our mission, really, wasn't it? Yeah.
That's top half, and then getting Europa League and pushing on from there. You need someone that can score more than 6 in 25 games. And then, I mean, looking at the stats, we can see that Robert Snodgrass is their top assister with 4. And I mean, obviously, there's a completely different style of play to him and like that's someone like Kevin De Bruyne. Yeah. But Kevin De Bruyne is a better footballer. But Kevin De Bruyne has 15 assists in the league. Snodgrass has 4. And if you want your players to be building up to Europa League and everything, you need them to be picking out the players and everything.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, really. I think another massive problem they've had is that one of the only signings they've made in recent years that has actually bolstered them as a defensive unit was Fabianski.
Yes.
I think getting him was brilliant for them for so cheap. Fantastic goalkeeper, but obviously he's been out for a lot of this season. Then they rushed him back. Now he's out again. They've had massive goalkeeping problems this year. It is Robles, isn't it? Is that right? No, Joel. Joel, was it?
They obviously they had Adrian.
Yep.
And he's gone to Liverpool, and Roberto is now their keeper now that Fabianski is out.
That was it.
But as you said, they are very injury plagued, and that doesn't help when they need the players to be there and fit and performing, and then when the players are back, like the likes of Anderson and Lanzini, they just aren't creating, and it's got to the point where West Ham even had to buy back Randolph from, I believe, Middlesbrough, so for $4 million. So, not going the best for them. I'm scared for them, especially with as you said, the money they've put into the team.
Yeah.
But it's been top heavy. It's been, if we can get the strikers, if we can get the creative players and have the ball in the opposition half, our defence won't be as worried. But that hasn't really paid off, and I generally feel that Watford will stay up and West Ham will be 19th.
Oh, really? You think they will go down?
I think West Ham will go down, and I think that it will be, when West Ham go down, I feel that Mark Noble will retire.
Okay. I personally feel like, yes, they're struggling, but they just have that little bit more than I think the teams around them currently at the minute. So I think that they will stay up. If they do stay up, it's going to be a very interesting summer for them.
Yes.
I think the owners are going to be under a lot of pressure from fans to make a few marquee signings, and they definitely have to be in the right area. And I think that defensive unit really needs looking at, and what they're going to do with it, and whether or not, obviously Pellegrini got sacked, didn't he, through the season. Is David Moyes, is he full time, or is he just given to the end of the season? Or was it a long term?
He's got 18 months,
right, okay.
But that obviously depends on results. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, if he, I don't think there'd be any point sacking him now because there's 13 games left, unless Watford, why do I keep saying Watford? West Ham, go and lose their next 7.
Yeah.
And then obviously you've got to look at,
you're in big trouble.
Yeah, if West Ham are losing their next 7, Watford get points from their next 7, and the team just above them will go on, Villa getting points, then you're like, right, we need to do something. But then again, it might be too late at that point. So there's, as we'll go on to now, Aston Villa just a point ahead of them on 25 points after 25 games. Jack Grealish, their highest goal scorer and assister, but as we've got written down here, they are joint first in goals against, which obviously might, with how close the title race, the relegation battle is. I'm getting everything mixed up today.
No, honestly, if you think Aston Villa can still win the Prem, I'm all for it.
Well, as the relegation battle is so close, goal difference I feel is going to play a major part.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And yet again, signings haven't worked for Aston Villa. They spent over 100 million.
Yep.
And they brought it. Did they bring in Wesley this season?
Yeah, so they brought him in summer, and he was big money.
22 million.
Yeah. Didn't.
Where is he?
Well, it didn't really work out for him. He scored a few, but now he's out for the rest of the season now.
Same as McGinn. He performed very well.
Yep.
And now he's injured, and they've fallen apart. I mean,
and goalkeeper name I've completely forgot out of my head.
Heaton.
That's the one, yes. Heaton. So I mean, you look at the team, and it's quite tough on them because despite spending a lot of money, I do feel a bit sorry for them in the sense of you look at McGinn, Heaton, Wesley, that are players of good quality or big money signings that were brought in to bolster the squad and help them stay up. that they've lost. So I think that is quite tough on them.
Well, going from that, they have just brought in Pepe Reina.
Yep.
Very, very experienced goalkeeper from AC Milan. And this is why I believe that they will... Okay, yeah, they're joint in conceding.
Yep.
But we've got their latest results in upcoming fixtures. They drew 1-1 with Brighton. They beat Watford and narrowly lost to Bournemouth. They've got Sheffield United, Tottenham, Southampton, and Leicester coming up. 2 out of the 4 of them, Sheffield United and Southampton, I feel that if they are a solid unit, which at times they have been, could get some results.
No, I'd agree.
Tottenham and Leicester, I don't feel that they will get anything from. But going back to the Pepe Reina, I feel because of his experience, he's played in the Premier League with Liverpool, Champions League, very, very experienced goalkeeper. I feel like he will be able to give the leadership that may... Because Jack Grealish is their captain, is still quite young. I feel like he'll be able to give that leadership from the back that may just help Aston Villa stay there.
Yeah. I also think it's interesting to look at what the manager said this week for Villa, that if at this point in the season you'd have offered him to be out of the relegation zone and also in a cup final, because they're going to face you in the Carabao Cup final, they would have snapped your hand off.
Yeah.
So I think, again, it's quite difficult for, obviously, me being a Liverpool fan, you being a Man City fan, to give a valid opinion on how a fan of a club of that ilk would feel of how their season's going, because obviously they probably think, and like the managers can't said, they're having a good season for what their expectations were. And that's the thing that comes back down to, again, I think expectations is everything. And whilst a club like a supporter of West Ham won't be happy with where they are because of their expectations, and Aston Villa fan currently might be happy and thinking, something. But then on the flip side, they might look at Sheffield United and think, well, hang on a sec, they got promoted, spent less money than us.
Yeah.
They're doing that well. Why aren't we doing that well?
Yeah,
so it's all about, what you expect your team will do. And that's maybe for a lot of fans, that's the biggest killer.
Moving on to 16th, with again only 1 point above them. So Norwich are down there on, I believe, Norwich are on 18 points.
18 points, yeah.
But then from 19th up to 15th, there's 3 points in it. So it's very close. Bournemouth 16th, 26 points. Callum Wilson 7 goals, highest goal scorer. Ryan Fraser is their highest assister with only 3.
Yep.
Which
a massive drop off from last season.
Is last season, and very interesting considering I don't really hear his name being said when I watch Bournemouth play.
No, I'd completely agree. I mean,
they've just got Harry Wilson coming back in.
Yep.
I believe he either scored or assisted in their game against Aston Villa. Or might have done both. I don't know. Yep. But or assisted the goal to Callum Wilson in the 2-1 loss to Sheffield United. Might be wrong, but I believe that Harry Wilson is coming back in. And obviously they Bournemouth do have Josh King.
Yep.
But he's in and out of injury a lot. There was supposedly going to be this big money move to Man United for 50 million, but obviously that's Man United and it won't ever happen because they just had a garlic from China and bring over a virus. But moving on, yes, Bournemouth 16th. I feel they'll stay up. They just lost to Sheffield United. They've got Burnley away, tough game. They then host Chelsea.
Yep, tough game,
very tough. Then they host Liverpool. They go to Liverpool. Very tough game. And then they host Crystal Palace. Again, 2 out of the 4, if they play how they have done, like when they played against Arsenal and against some other teams, they've been solid, they've been a good unit, and they haven't broken their positions and the tactics that Eddie Howe has given them at the beginning of the game. I feel they could get some results, and I feel that they might have the slight edge to get them there.
Right, that's interesting because I actually think that they will be the third team I think will go down.
Okay, so again, before we go into, so just like with the weekly predictions, we're going to do our bottom 3 prediction, and then there's going to be a surprise prize.
Okay.
That if you get up for grabs, there'll be, so if you get 1 out of 3, smaller prize, 2 out of 3, bigger prize, and then 3 out of 3. If you get it bang on in the position, there'll be a big prize for you. This is
very exciting times. The listeners are they're going mad at home right now.
This is obviously, because I know what the prizes are. This is just for you. Obviously, I'll still say mine.
Right. Okay.
I'll still say mine, but and then, I mean, if I get it bang on, we'll say that you have to get me a pint. That'll be it. But for you,
I didn't sign up to this, by the way.
yes, you did.
Okay.
But for you, there will be a prize for each right position you get.
Yep.
So your bottom 3, who are you saying?
I am saying
20th.
Bottom of the table will be Norwich.
Okay.
I think that's a given.
Yeah. That is mine as well.
Okay. 19th, Watford.
Okay.
I think they will go down.
Okay.
I think this is finally the season.
Yeah.
They'll be gone. And yeah, like I said, 18th. Mm-hmm. And this is I'd say, kind of curveball, and one that I'm the least certain about, but I'm going to put them there, will be Bournemouth.
Yeah.
So that's my bottom 3.
Okay. Quickly, before we talk a little bit, we'll go talk about a little bit more about Bournemouth, and then we'll move on to 15th Brighton. Mine, 19th, I'm actually going to say West Ham.
That's bold. That is bold.
I know. And although I said Watford would stay up, I'm going to actually change it, and I'm going to say Watford are going to be 18th.
Okay.
I think Brighton will finish 17th, Villa will be 16th, and Bournemouth 15th. I think Brighton will do it purely on goal difference.
Okay. It's going to be tight then. Wow.
Yeah. So that is ours, and we will come back to that at the end of the season and see who's the closest or who got it bang on. And yes, there is a surprise for you, which I will not tell you, so do not bug me for it. So, going quickly on to Bournemouth, obviously we spoke about Josh King, Harry Wilson, Callum Wilson, Ryan Fraser, their top assister with 3. They're 5th in the table for conceding with 40th. They're 16th in points, and they're 16th for goals scored.
Yep.
Scored 25. It's okay. It's not
I just look at Bournemouth, and I just think they've had quite a few years in the Premier League now, and I just don't think the signings have been as smart as they could have been. Like, you look at where they've invested money, like 15 million for Ibe, and then you look at 20 million for Solanke, a player who scored one Premier League goal.
Yeah.
And you just think that is some crazy money to be throwing about for a club of, not to belittle them as a club, but for a club of their size to have come up fantastic. They played fantastic football, and you think, right, if there was one club that would be smart with their investments, it would be them.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just look at where they've put the money, and you just really question. It is a bit.
And there's always the he seems to be floating on every single time there's a window. There's been the questions of, will he go to Leicester, will he go to City, will he go to Arsenal?
Who's that, sorry?
Nathan Ake.
Oh, Ake, yep.
Because I feel like he's dropped off, because obviously he was on loan from Chelsea, then they signed him permanently, and then when Man City, when everything happened with Laporte, and in January we signed someone. Arsenal looking at centre backs, when they signed one. Leicester looking at a potential, because Johnny Evans is he's get on and may not play for a few more, and then obviously Maguire left, and no one really had heard of Sionchu until this season. Well, I hadn't heard of him.
I hadn't.
Yeah, so there was all of that, and then there's a potential of obviously with the market as it is, get the money and get the 60, 70 million that teams may have paid for him and rebuild, but that's kind of gone now, and I feel like that may not affect Bournemouth this season, but could affect Bournemouth next season, and maybe affect Eddie Howe. I feel like he's done incredibly well being with Bournemouth all this time, bringing them up the size of the club they are in terms of their stadium, how many fans they could bring in and everything, and they've come to the Premier League. But Eddie Howe was even picked to be maybe even go to a big move to Arsenal.
Well, he was picked to be England manager at one point, wasn't he? Yeah.
And now he's suddenly like just he's 16th.
Do you think he may be getting to a point now where he as a manager has taken them as far as
Yeah, I feel like he's done. Like there's nothing. Like he's not like he. I don't know whether you've seen on social media that like those where he's mic'd up.
Okay.
Like they like he's so like you hear how he does his training sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's mic'd up, the way he talks, everything, and he's done so much for the club, and it's a sense of can Eddie Howe be sacked by Bournemouth in the sense of he's done so much for the club. Is it going to be Eddie Howe has to decide to leave, or can the board go, right, Eddie, you've got to go?
Yeah, I completely get what you mean.
It's an interesting one, but as we both said, we feel that Bournemouth will stay up. Right.
I don't think they will.
You don't think they will? No.
No. I said they will finish 18th.
Right. Now, the big one, well, in terms of stuff to talk about, Brighton.
Mm-hmm.
Top goal scorer, brought in Morpay. Did very well in the Championship. Got 20 plus goals last season.
Mm-hmm.
Pascal Gross on 4 assists. But because we've got season tickets, as I said earlier, seen him plays well. Although he doesn't get the assists, he's there.
Okay.
But they're on 27 points. They're 15th. They are there here and there, but they seem to be dragging out draws and not good draws, not good performances.
Right.
And I feel like that could. I don't think there's 3 teams that, as we both have said, that we feel are worse than this season. But it's going to be a close one.
Okay.
And obviously that is player performances as well. But I feel a lot of it may have to do with Graham Potter.
Right.
And before I go on to that, is there anything you would like to say about? I mean, they scored. I don't know how many have they scored this season.
1 second. They have scored 27 goals this season.
Scored 27, and how many have they conceded?
They have conceded 38.
Oh, yeah. All right. So goal difference of -11. It's not too bad for a team. Like they've only scored 1 less than Sheffield United. And look where Sheffield United are.
True.
So they get the goals, but they don't seem to get the goals in the big games.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Watford game, if they had got those 3 points, would have been massive.
Yeah.
And now Watford are in that, like, if Watford win a game, Brighton lose a game, Watford are joint on points.
They're suddenly back into that race, aren't they? So like I mentioned earlier, the interesting stat that I did find, that I don't know if you have any say on why this might be or why they might be, because I think this is quite impressive almost, is that in the league, Brighton actually have the 4th highest for attempted passes and passes completed, and they're only behind at City, Chelsea, Liverpool.
I have a lot to say on that.
I was looking upon this before and going through the stats of the teams and things, and I couldn't almost, when I saw it, I was almost did a double take. I actually couldn't believe that was there. So obviously you say that your family have got season tickets for Brighton. What's the story behind that then?
For the guy who asked me to talk about Brighton, I'm just going to say, well, surprisingly, it's my surname. I was going to say one name, Stevens. Now, Brighton fans and people that have watched Brighton, if you tell me how many times Dale Stevens can pass the football forward in a football match, then, yeah. Tell me how many times he actually passes it forward. He might be. He's probably in the top 5 of passing. Cool. He hasn't hit double digits of passing it forward in a long time. He goes side to side, back to Dunk, back to Duffy, back to Byrne, to Montoya, everything. Yet he still gets 90 minutes. And there's a lot of fans around where we sit and online where they're like, how's he still in the team? And again, this is reflected on Graham Potter. And the last game I went to see, I actually went to the Brighton Aston Villa 1-1, and Brighton went 1-0 up, then Aston Villa equalised. 75th minute, he has 1 sub left, need a goal. Right, if you were 1-1, you had an attacking player coming onto the pitch, and you needed that force, so you needed your attacking players to be on the pitch, all of them, if you could, and you had your defence was fine, you had an attacking / holding midfielder and a full holding midfielder. Who would you take off? Would you take off like another potentially the holding mid and like drop the guy who could play both, or would you take off an attacker, do a like flight swap? What would you do, personally?
Well, it depends where you are in the game, though, doesn't it?
75th minute, 1-1.
No, I understand that, but it's
You've got more possession, you've had more chances, you're on top, and you need
you go for it. Then wouldn't you?
You go for it. He took off Morpay.
So he did a light flight swap.
Yeah,
right.
And left Dale Stephens on the pitch. Dale Stephens, week in, week out. I'm sorry for anyone that likes Dale Stephens, by the way.
Sorry if Dale Stephens is actually listening, by the way.
Week in, week out, will get 90 minutes on the pitch. And I always, whenever I see them, I'm going to go watch the Brighton Palace. I'm going to watch the derby. And I always am shocked that he gets 90 minutes. If you need that pass and everything, he's there. But he never will look up. I do not see him. Occasionally he'll play a pass forward, cool, and it might get there. But he hardly ever looks up. Trossard will be on the left. Morpay might have pushed out to the right. Gross might be there. Won't look up. He'll play the easy pass to Basuma or Proper or go back to Dunk.
So why is he getting so many minutes then? Is he good defensively? Does he provide that covering midfield then?
He's the player that... He's not in the sense he's not a bad player.
Okay.
He will do the passes, which is why Brighton is so high up, I think, because they pass it round. They try and play possession, but then get caught out because their possession
isn't in the right area.
Isn't in the right. Like there will be a lot of passes in the centre circle.
Yeah.
A lot in and around that. And Dale Stephens, and a lot of other Brighton players, not just Dale Stephens, will hold the ball for too long, but then they will get that pass off. And I think the reason he gets there is because he can pass the ball, he can play, and I think Graham Potter likes to have that guy he's calm on the ball for someone in his position at Brighton. He's calm on the ball, and that's why I feel like he's there. But I don't think week in, week out he should get 90 minutes. And this was one thing that I was asked to speak about is why, when you have the likes of, you've got Aaron Moy on loan from Huddersfield because he impressed you last season and he was a Premier League worthy player. Why is he on the bench?
Yeah. So you almost feel as if the manager's not maybe going for it as much as he could, in the sense of in them tight games against teams that are in and around them, such as your Villas, where you are on top already, that you feel like, what is the point in doing a like-for-like swap?
Yeah.
You feel like you're that much on top that you can afford to risk it, because it still is a risk, to take off that holding midfielder and bring on another striker.
Of course there's a risk, but then I feel like Graham Potter and his staff may have a fear of, if we go for it, we're going to lose a game, we'll take this point, we'll hold it, and then they'll push for 5-6 minutes, it'll get to the 83rd, and then the mentality will just go, and be like, okay, we've got the draw, and then suddenly, when the board goes up, and they hear there'll be 3 minutes at a time, they push again, but it's too late by then.
Yeah.
And I feel, obviously, Graham Potter has done well at Brighton. He came in, he was Swansea's manager before, and people were like, really? And he did quite well. But now, ever since I believe it's 6 years that he's just signed on for, has come in,
I did not know that. That is a very long time.
I believe it's a 6-year contract. I could be wrong. But they seem to just not wanna play the attacking teams. Obviously, he'll pick so that the back line is pretty much the same. It's the Duffy and Dunk and Montoya, and when Byrne's back, Byrne plays left back.
Yep.
And then the attack is Morpay, Gross on the right, Trossard, and then he doesn't risk the mid being you could have Moy being like a box to box,
Yeah.
and then you could play proper.
So you don't feel like there's enough
You could,
creativity.
yeah,
in
you
there.
could play. You could play Basuma. Your Hambash could play on the right, and then you could drop Gross in.
Yeah.
But Dale Stevens seems to be, apart from like Matty Ryan, Dale Stevens seems to be like the first name on the team sheet week in, week out.
Mm-hmm.
And at this stage in the season, I feel, and a lot of Brighton fans I've spoken to feel that there should be more risk in the team selection because, okay, you might lose, but then it might also pay off.
Yeah.
And so a lot of fans are shocked at the length of the contract that Potter has been given because of the way he seems to have dipped and then not been able to bring it back up. And that's why, although I said Brighton stay up, I feel it'll be very close because if you get a draw, if you just get a draw and then you just play out for the draw,
Yeah.
you're just gonna only get 1 point, and then let's say their next game, they get 1 point, and then Watford win. Watford are 1 point behind them, and suddenly it's all changed.
Would you say Brighton fans at the start of the season, if you'd have said new manager coming in, you're gonna survive?
Yeah, but
would they take that? Or do you think the expectations are higher? I guess is my question.
Well, in the sense that Chris Hughton brought them up, and then they got to the FA Cup semi-final. So they got to the FA Cup semi-final. I can't remember. Yeah, I know. I went to it.
You were there.
I was there.
It happened.
In the Brighton end.
Wow.
Yes. Tickets weren't originally mine.
Lies.
No lies. But Chris Hughton brought them up. They stayed up. They beat Man United. I believe they beat Man United like on the final day to stay up. And then they beat Arsenal like the season later on, 2-1, like 4 games left, and then they stayed up. And then Chris Hughton got them to the FA Cup semi-final. So and they're still in the same league position, so I don't feel like Graham Potter's taken them anywhere because the FA Cup, Brighton aren't there.
Yep.
So if you're looking at league position and domestic competition, overall, Chris Hughton, it's Graham Potter's first year, but Chris Hughton has done more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, obviously, if you told Brighton fans at the start of the season, you're staying up, they were like, sweet. But then if you go, you're going to finish 15th or 16th, same position and pretty much the same stats that Chris Hughton did, how do you feel with the new manager? They were like, well, what was the point?
Do you think then that if they do get that 15th or 16th, or like you said, you think they'll stay up maybe just on goal difference, do you think that they'll give Graham Potter another year? Or do you think, again, it's time to maybe think, okay,
I believe...
change? Not advocating managers being sacked, by the way.
I think Potter will see this. He's just signed a long deal.
So you think, yeah, he'll guaranteed be there.
He'll see out the season.
Okay.
He'll be the start of next season. Why would you sack him? I mean, stuff might happen behind the doors, but why would you sack your manager during the summer?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't really seem logical. So I think he'll be there, and it will all determine how Brighton are the start of next season and how their summer window is, because Morpay's there, but he's their only real out and out striker because Glenn Murray's like 37.
Yep.
Glenn Murray comes on for Glenn Murray hardly starts now, which is fair enough, 37.
Mm-hmm.
But he'll come on for the last 15 minutes, but then he will get a few. He might get a tap in or score a penalty and stuff. But when Murray's gone, if Morpay gets injured,
pretty screwed.
Who's there?
Well, Jahanbash can play.
Yeah, and so can Trossard, but that's not really going to be the ball. O'Connelly's coming through, but he's still only 19.
Yeah.
And then
I think it's that case.
Solly March is non-existent He's not been injured.
I'll be honest, I completely forgot that Brighton had even signed him.
And he's been there for years. Yeah, he might be a winger, but he's Graham. Brighton fans love him.
Mm-hmm.
Where is he? He's not injured.
Right.
He never makes a and this is what, again, the lack of risk and push on, I think, the players themselves, and I think Graham Potter is just coasting.
Right. I think with Brighton, again, if they stay up, I think it'll be interesting in the sense of, like a lot of teams in and around them, but also teams that are perhaps pushing for Europe, maybe apart from us, because I don't think we're going to have a big summer in terms of a transfer window. I think a team like Brighton, teams around them that stay up, but also a vast majority of the teams in the league, it is going to be a very big spending in summer. And I think a lot of teams are just going to go out there and be like, we need to cement either getting in Champions League, top 6, top half the table, or just surviving. And they're going to throw as much money as they can. And I think it'll be, I'm not saying that we haven't had a lot of big spends in the past, but I think it'll be maybe the first time in a long time where City go massive, Chelsea go massive, Arsenal, Tottenham, United, but not only them, you've got all your smaller teams that are at risk of relegation who also think, right, we need to book our ideas up here and make sure we're not just staying up, we're pushing for that top 10. So I think it'll be a very interesting summer, transfer-wise anyway.
Definitely.
I'm already enjoying reading every morning about United getting linked to a new £100 million player every day. It's personally my favourite thing in the news. But
yeah, was it a Sancho, and then I read somehow Grealish for like 70 million, and then I read something about like 2 weeks ago, like 3 days after Haaland had signed for Dortmund, being like, there's still a way United could sign him. Like, how?
They always find a way.
Just like Arsenal and United. I mean, United might be linked with Ronaldo to return. Yeah, but no, United have a gala, so it's all okay.
But yeah,
I mean that Crystal Palace are above Brighton, but I don't think we'll go much into Palace because although they're only 3 points ahead, and Brighton and Palace do play each other at the end of the month, I feel that Palace upwards are safe. And Arsenal are only 4 points ahead of Brighton. We were speaking about Brighton in the relegation battle, but obviously I doubt Arsenal are gonna.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we didn't want to. I mean, yeah, it was tough coming into this one doing a relegation battle podcast when we did, because we've done it at a time where it was so ridiculously close at the bottom of the table, and if we'd gone above Brighton, then you would have got Palace on 30 points, and you'd argue, well, if you're doing them, you've got to do Southampton, Newcastle, Burnley and Arsenal. So that's another 4 teams who are all on 31 points. So we have kind of tried to keep it a bit condensed into terms of which is our stopping off point. But yeah, I mean, Arsenal, we mentioned them a little bit before, just so many draws this season. They've, like you said, they haven't lost many games, but they've not won many games. Yeah. So it's just been a very strange season for them, and like I said, I think Arteta will do a good job. I think he will.
I think eventually he will.
I just think, like I said before, it's going to be a massive case of a big summer of spending, but that's going to be the plan for most teams.
Yeah,
and it's going to be interesting because, like we always see, not every signing will work out. I don't think Pepe has necessarily worked out for what he should have been. I know it's harsh to judge a player.
Even though he did say that, I saw on Twitter, he had a little interview with Guendouzi, and Guendouzi was like, "Who's the hardest defender you've played?" And Pepe went, "None."
Right, well, yeah. Take from that what you will,
mate. You're sitting 1 point above Brighton.
But no, I think
chill out.
It's harsh to. I think it is a bit harsh, no matter what the price tag is, to judge a player that's certainly come from a foreign league to the Premier League to say you've been horrendous, get rid of them. Yeah. I think that's harsh. I think you always need at least one season under your belt as a bit of an adjustment period.
But then again,
and then it's
Martinelli, 18 or 19,
yeah,
and
true.
He's
exceeded expectations.
In my view, outshone Pepe.
I would agree.
The front, because Aubameyang is back now, I think the front three should be Lacazette, Aubameyang, and Martinelli.
Right.
Obviously, Pepe will be, I think, could grow, but then we do have to look at the likes of Di Maria at Man United.
Mm-hmm.
He played one season.
Yep.
Did okay. I mean, the only goal I remember him scoring was against Leicester when he chipped it.
Yeah.
But
United did end up quitting the losses.
Yeah,
Sadly, didn't they?
But then again, like, they signed him, he didn't perform. They let him go. So, I mean, 13 games left, only won 6. Brought in Pepe for 70 million. Okay, yeah, only first season, but then again,
I think the problem that Arsenal would have if they were thinking about getting rid of him, which I don't think they will do, would be a case of, I know we've used an example of Di Maria with United, but with Di Maria, I think the reason they were able to get at least a good chunk of money back from him from PSG was that he'd proven himself at Real Madrid.
Yeah,
and he had that track record, didn't he?
PSG wanted it.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like,
So,
won trophies before.
Yeah,
Pepe,
that's the thing with Pepe. It's
He
don't
came
get me wrong, he
second
did well
in
at
the French
Lille.
league.
Yeah, he did well at Lille, but he's not actually done a
Yeah.
significant amount in his career.
which is why I think Arsenal, he's still quite young, I believe. But Arsenal could be a stepping stone in a sense, because if he can, he's not done terribly. Like, he's been here and there, but as you said, coming from a league like the French league, I guess, where it is predominantly PSG are gonna win, and then it's fight for second.
Yeah.
Which Lille did. To the Premier League and the physicality and everything. I feel like it could be a stepping stone, and if he could perform next season, and then maybe the season after that, or maybe half the season after that, then teams might still be looking at him because of his age, and when he has like played well, Arsenal have won, and he's done decent in Europe as well. So I believe that although he hasn't shone as well as I think people wanted him to after seeing his performance at Lille, he will eventually.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, we'll save all that for the next one. We yet again went on a bit of a tangent. I was a lot more passionate about the Brighton one than I thought I would be. But I mean, I was asked to talk about it by more than one person, so it did become one of the main topics. But I mean, we were going to talk about relegation, and then I was asked to talk about Brighton as a club.
Yeah, you brought the two together, didn't you?
So yeah, we just put two together. So I think that's our topics for this week.
Yeah. Again, if there's anything you'd like us to discuss in a upcoming podcast, you can do so by leaving a comment down below. It's going to be put up on YouTube, and it will also be put onto my blog website that I'm currently doing for university. So if you could check it out. It's called The Cop Comments. I'll leave a link down to that below as well. But yeah, if you could like the video, leave some comments of what you wanted to discuss in the future, and subscribe to the channel. That would be absolutely fantastic.
Yes, thank you for tuning into the Pod of Champions, and tune in, hopefully, I believe, next week.
Yep.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.